So for everybody out there, let's break it down. Can you give us the difference between an LLC and an S-Corp?
How much time do we have?
15 minutes.
Got it. Okay. So I'll give you the quicker version. You can form an entity in a couple of different forms. One is an LLC, one is a corporation. And then you also have a choice about how your entity is going to be taxed. And a corporation can be taxed as a C corporation or an S corporation. An LLC can be taxed as a partnership, an S corporation, or it can elect to be taxed as a C corporation. Okay. So there's this like matrix you need to be like envisioning in your mind, because there's the taxation question, and then there's the like corporate form question.
Right. Your formation.
Yeah. So LLCs have fewer default rules and are a little bit more flexible on the corporate side. Corporations have more default rules and are a little bit less flexible, but because they have more default rules, they're a little bit simpler to implement. So that's kind of the high level framework of the corporate form piece.
Sure.
Then there's the tax piece. And it's probably best to start with how a C-Corp is taxed. It has two levels of taxation. So if the corporation, the company overall, has profits, those profits get taxed once. And then if the profits get distributed out to the stockholders, they get taxed again. So there's a double layer of taxation. And as a general rule, you want to avoid that.
Yeah.
There are reasons why you might want to be in a corporation, but for businesses that are more like ours, we'd want to avoid that. Yeah. So you can opt to be taxed as a partnership, but only if you're in an LLC.
Yep.
And that means that the IRS looks through the company, pretends it's like not there, and taxes if their profits, taxes the owners as if the income was just coming to them directly.
Right.
There are complicated rules about how that's divided up, but it's basically like the profits are split up as if you're taxed directly.
Gotcha.
The problem is that you're taxed on all of the profits with a self-employment tax, which is a few percentage points.
Yeah, a few.
Now, an S-Corp is kind of like being taxed as a partnership, but the profits are not subject to self-employment tax. So you might be able to save yourself a few percentage points.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other catches, like if you're an S-Corp and you're an owner who works in the S-Corp, you need to pay yourself a reasonable wage on W-2, which are then subject to payroll taxes. So you kind of like pay back some of those percentage points.
Yeah.
But in an S-Corp, if you can get profits that exceed your reasonable wage that you have to pay yourself, you can save yourself those self-employment tax points that you would have had to pay in the partnership context.
Gotcha.
That's the difference. And that's literally as quick as I can make it.
There's so many layers to
that.
Yeah, there are. I think...
Because it's not just one differentiator between each one.
I think at the end of the day, my most practical advice is if you are just getting started, probably and this is, every situation is different. This isn't specific legal advice to anybody.
Of course, yeah, a little disclaimer.
But when I come in with a business kind of like yours that's going to have cash flow up front, isn't trying to grow huge by leaps and bounds immediately. Like I know you're trying to grow.
Yeah. No, I get it.
You're not trying to have
money,
explosive growth. I would say do kind of the simplest thing first, which is probably an LLC taxed as a partnership. And then once you start to turn a profit, talk to an accountant. You can always go back to an S-Corp. So if you're either a corporation or an LLC, and regardless of what tax election you make, those are all limited liability entities. So if the business gets sued and the business doesn't have enough assets to cover its liabilities, you would not go through to the owners.
Right.
It's a container for the liabilities.
Yeah.
Likewise, if a owner gets sued for some personal thing,
Right.
you know,
Car accident.
you hit
or-
somebody with your car on the weekends,
Yeah.
they could go after potentially your ownership interest in the company, but like not the company's assets itself. So long story short, for liability purposes, no difference between LLC and S-Corp.